Imagine waking up one morning and your mother is simply gone. No goodbye, no note, no warning, just gone. And then the days start piling up. 1 week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, 3 months, and still nothing. That is the nightmare that Savannah Guthrie, one of the most recognized faces on American television, has been living every single day since February 1st of 2026. But here is what makes this case unlike almost anything we have seen before. There is a hair, one single hair recovered from inside that house on the night of the abduction. And right now, at this very moment, that hair is sitting inside a lab at the FBI headquarters in Quantico, Virginia, being analyzed with technology so advanced it can potentially identify someone through their distant relatives. Stay with me, because what is happening behind the scenes of this case is more dramatic, more complex, and more disturbing than most people realize. Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, this is the place where we go beyond the headlines and dig into the truth. If you care about justice for Nancy Guthrie, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on your notifications. Because this case is far from over, and we are going to be right here every step of the way. Let us start from the very beginning, so everyone is fully caught up. Because to understand why this DNA discovery matters so much, you need to understand what happened on that cold February morning in Tucson, Arizona. Nancy Guthrie is 84 years old. She is described by everyone who knows her as warm, sharp, and full of life. Her neighbors called her vivacious. Her daughter Savannah has called her a miracle. She lives alone in the Catalina Foothills neighborhood of Tucson, a quiet and upscale community where people feel safe. On the evening of January 31st, Nancy had dinner with her daughter Annie Guthrie and Annie's family. It was a normal evening. Family games, laughter, love, the kind of night you remember later as the last good one. At 9:48 that night, Annie dropped her mother off at home. The garage door opened. Nancy walked in. The garage door closed 2 minutes later. That was the last time anyone who loves her saw her. What happened next is chilling. At 1:47 in the morning, Nancy's doorbell camera went offline. Not because it malfunctioned, not because of a power outage. Someone tampered with it. Then at 2:28 in the morning, something happened that gave investigators a precise, heartbreaking timestamp. Nancy Guthrie has a pacemaker. That pacemaker connects to an app on her phone. And at 2:28 a.m., the pacemaker app stopped syncing. The device went out of range of her phone. She was no longer in her home. Someone had taken her. She was reported missing around noon on February 1st when she failed to show up to watch an online church service with a friend. That was the moment everything changed. Now think about this for a second. We are talking about an 84-year-old woman who needs daily medication, who has a pacemaker, who was ripped from her home in the dead of night. And whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. They had planned it. That brings us to the surveillance footage. And this is where things get serious. 10 days into the investigation, FBI Director Kash Patel made a dramatic move. He personally released surveillance images recovered from Nancy Guthrie's Google Nest doorbell camera. But here's what makes this so stunning. That footage was not supposed to exist. The camera had been disconnected. The images were pulled from residual data found in back-end systems, essentially, the ghost of footage that someone thought they had erased. Think about that. The person who took Nancy Guthrie tried to destroy the evidence. They thought they had gotten away with it. And then the FBI found it anyway. What those images show is terrifying. A masked individual. A ski mask covering every inch of their face. Gloved hands. A holstered pistol on their hip. A large backpack, later identified as a 25-liter Ozark Trail hiker pack. This person was not a random opportunist. They came prepared. They came equipped. They came with a plan. In one clip, this masked figure approaches the front door and raises a gloved hand directly toward the camera. In another clip, they cover the lens with vegetation. They knew where the camera was. They knew what they needed to disable. This was not someone's first crime. The FBI described the suspect as a male, approximately 5 feet 9 to 5 feet 10 inches tall with an average build. And Sheriff Chris Nanos said something that sent chills through everyone following this case. He said he believes this person had a specific target. They were not wandering through the neighborhood looking for an easy opportunity. They chose Nancy Guthrie. But why? And how did they know so much about her home? Let me ask you something. If you were going to abduct someone in the dead of night, how would you know where the cameras were? How would you know the layout of the property? How would you know the right moment to strike? Former FBI Assistant Director John Miller went on television and raised a theory that has been haunting this case ever since. He suggested the suspect may not be a stranger. It could mean one of two things. Either the people who took Nancy Guthrie are not sophisticated ransom kidnappers, and they are improvising as they go. Or some of those notes are fake, sent by opportunists trying to exploit a desperate family. And tragically, that second possibility became reality. A California man named Derek Colella, 42 years old, was arrested on federal charges for allegedly posing as an abductor and demanding ransom from the Guthrie family through text messages. He is now heading toward trial, but he is not connected to the actual kidnapping. He is just another predator who saw a grieving family and tried to take advantage. Savannah Guthrie, in her first interview since her mother disappeared, spoke about the ransom notes in a conversation with her close friend and former co-host Hoda Kotb. She said she believes 2 of the notes are legitimate. 2, because according to law enforcement sources, at least one of those notes contained details about Nancy Guthrie's home that had never been made public. Details that only someone who had been inside that house would know. And in that same interview, Savannah said words that broke the heart of everyone watching. She said it is too much to bear to think that she brought this to her mother's doorstep, that it happened because of her. She said, "I'm so sorry, Mommy, I'm so sorry." Think about that. A daughter blaming herself for the abduction of her 84-year-old mother. That is the weight this family is carrying every single day. The family put up a $1 million reward. $1 million for information leading to Nancy's recovery. Savannah posted a video about it in late February, and in that video she said something that shattered the world watching. She said while the family still believes in a miracle, they also know that Nancy may already be gone. Let that sink in. A daughter saying publicly that her mother might already be dead, but still fighting, still hoping, still asking for answers. Now, let us get into the evidence, because this is where the DNA discovery becomes absolutely critical. In the first days of the investigation, investigators collected evidence from Nancy's home. They found signs of forced entry. They found her blood, drops of Nancy Guthrie's blood on the front porch. That blood confirmed she did not walk out of that house on her own. Something violent happened at that door. They also collected DNA from the property. And almost immediately, the sheriff confirmed something extraordinary. They had DNA at the scene that they believed did not belong to Nancy or to anyone in her immediate household. They believed they had the kidnapper's DNA. But here is where the problem started. And this is where I need you to pay very close attention because this part of the story is genuinely shocking. The DNA that investigators collected was what forensic scientists call a mixed sample. That means it contains genetic material from more than one person. It is tangled, layered, multiple DNA signatures woven together like threads in a knot. To use that evidence, you have to separate those strands. You have to isolate individual profiles, and that takes time, significant time. The Pima County Sheriff's Department, which is the local agency leading this investigation, sent the samples to a private lab in Florida that they have a contract with. And the FBI, which was assisting in the case, said they wanted to test the DNA themselves from the very beginning. They had the technology. They had the lab. They asked to test the DNA. But the local sheriff sent it to the private lab instead. 2 months went by. 2 months. And then that private Florida lab transferred the original hair sample to the FBI laboratory at Quantico. The FBI then went public with a statement that raised eyebrows across the country. Assistant Director for Public Affairs Ben Williamson posted on X, saying the FBI had asked to test this DNA over 2 months ago with the same technology they had always had, but the local sheriff sent it to a private lab instead. 11 weeks after the sample was collected, it finally arrived at Quantico. That is an extraordinary public statement from the FBI about a local sheriff's department. The FBI was essentially saying out loud that the DNA could have been in their lab much sooner. What caused the delay? Why did the sheriff choose the private lab over the FBI? These are questions that have never been fully answered. And they matter. Every single week that passes without an arrest is a week that Nancy Guthrie may still be out there. Every delay in processing evidence is a delay in finding her. The sheriff's office pushed back. A spokesperson posted on social media saying this is not new information, and that the private lab has been sharing information with the FBI lab and other partner labs across the country continuously. But the FBI's public statement painted a very different picture. Now let us talk about this hair. Because a hair is not just a strand of protein. In the right hands, a hair is a key that can unlock a person's entire identity. Cece Moore is one of the most respected investigative genetic genealogists in the country. She works at Parabon Nanolabs in Virginia. And when she heard that a hair sample had been recovered from Nancy Guthrie's home, she said something that sent a wave of hope through everyone following this case. She said a hair absolutely can make this case solvable. What is investigative genetic genealogy? Think of it as a family tree built in reverse. Scientists take an unknown DNA profile and they search commercial databases like GEDmatch or Family Tree DNA, looking for people who share similar genetic markers. Even if the suspect is not in any database, their cousin might be, their second cousin, their third cousin, and from those distant relatives, investigators build a family tree and narrow it down until they find the person who matches the crime scene DNA. This is the exact technique that caught the Golden State Killer after more than 40 years. It is a method that identified Rex Hoyerman as the Gilgo Beach serial killer. And it is being used right now in the Nancy Guthrie case. Cece Moore also mentioned something that investigators are watching closely. She noted that the FBI has likely turned to Astrea Forensics, a San Francisco-based lab that has become famous in law enforcement circles for its extraordinary ability to generate DNA profiles from rootless hair. Astrea was used in the Gilgo Beach case. They cracked evidence that other labs could not. And if they are involved in the Guthrie case, that is enormously significant. But there is a catch, and it is a big one. The DNA recovered from Nancy's home is a complex mixture. The sheriff said it could contain genetic material from 3 or more individuals. Separating those strands to isolate a single usable profile is extraordinarily difficult. Sheriff Nanos told a local neighborhood watch group that it could take 6 more months before the evidence is clean enough to be submitted for investigative genetic genealogy. 6 more months. That timeline is brutal for a family already in agony. And as of this week, as we mark 3 months since Nancy's disappearance, there is no confirmed DNA match. There is no named suspect. There is no arrest. The investigation is active. The FBI says there are about 24 investigators still working the case. 5 labs across the country are reportedly analyzing different samples. But the answer has not come yet. Now let us talk about the other evidence trail that went nowhere. Because this one is particularly frustrating. Shortly after the investigation began, searchers found a pair of gloves about 2 miles from Nancy Guthrie's home. These gloves appear to match the ones worn by the masked suspect in the doorbell camera footage. Investigators were excited. This could be physical evidence dropped by the kidnapper in their escape. They processed those gloves for DNA. They found DNA on them. The profile of an unknown male. They ran it through CODIS, the FBI's national database of convicted offenders. No match. They compared it to the DNA found at Nancy's property. No match. And then the trail went completely cold in the most maddening way possible. Investigators eventually traced the DNA on those gloves back to a local restaurant worker. Someone who had absolutely nothing to do with the kidnapping. The gloves had probably just been discarded near his workplace, or found their way there innocently. An entire lead, an entire wave of hope, and it led nowhere. But here is the detail that no one should forget. The sheriff's department said explicitly that other DNA evidence was still being analyzed. That confirmation that there was additional evidence beyond the gloves kept the case alive forensically. And that is what ultimately led to the hair sample now sitting in Quantico. There is one more element to this investigation that people are not talking about enough. And I want to raise it carefully because it involves the conduct of the people responsible for finding Nancy Guthrie. Leaked internal emails obtained by Fox News Digital revealed that the Pima County Sheriff's Department had been working extensively with producers of a reality television show called Desert Law from July to December of 2025. The department granted behind-the-scenes access, body camera footage, and operational cooperation to this TV production. Now, these emails predate Nancy Guthrie's disappearance, and there is no direct evidence that the TV production interfered with the investigation. But the optics are troubling. A department that spent months cooperating with a reality show is now under intense scrutiny for its handling of one of the highest-profile missing person cases in American history. Pima County Supervisor Jen Allen expressed concern about the sheriff's responses to the handling of the case. Discussions have even surfaced about what it would take to remove the sheriff from office, though no action has been taken. And when the FBI publicly said that the sheriff had delayed sending them the DNA, it added fuel to a fire that was already burning. Does that mean the investigation is compromised? Not necessarily. About 24 investigators are still actively working the case. The FBI is fully engaged, but the public trust in how this case is being managed has been strained. And that matters, because public trust affects tips. Tips affect investigations. And in a case with no named suspect and no arrest after 3 months, tips may be the thing that breaks it open. Let us talk about where things stand right now as of early May 2026. Nancy Guthrie has been missing for more than 90 days. No suspect has been publicly named. No arrest has been made. The family has still not received proof of life. Her daughter Savannah has returned to the Today Show after a 2-month absence. NBC even put protocols in place so that if breaking news about the case comes in while Savannah is on air, she is quietly removed from the set before the news is reported and another anchor handles it. Think about former SWAT Commander Bob Krieger appeared publicly this week and said something important. He said the 3-month mark is really insignificant to investigators. They do not measure progress by the calendar. They measure it by evidence and leads. He said investigators will persist thoroughly and hope remains. But he also acknowledged the painful truth that some cases do go cold. And then he said something that deserves to be repeated. He said even if this case goes cold, it could be solved 20 or 30 years from now. That DNA in Quantico does not expire. That profile, once isolated, will sit in a database. And the moment anyone connected to this crime is arrested for anything else, or the moment a relative uploads their DNA to a genealogy site, the algorithm will find them. Think about that for a moment. Whoever took Nancy Guthrie may think they got away with it. They may think they are safe. But if they left even one hair, if they left one skin cell, if they shed one molecule of their genetic identity in that house, the FBI now has it. And they are working to decode it. There is no statute of limitations on kidnapping. There is no hiding from a DNA database forever. But the question that haunts this case is the one that matters most right now. Is Nancy Guthrie still alive? Her family has said publicly they believe in the possibility. Former investigators who have reviewed the case have said the widespread belief early in the investigation was that Nancy could be alive. Ransom notes, whatever their legitimacy, suggest someone wanted money, not a body. The FBI has not confirmed her death. No remains have been found. But she is 84 years old. She needs daily medication. She has a pacemaker. Every day that passes makes the hope a little harder to hold on to. The family offered $1 million reward. The FBI is offering a separate reward of up to $100,000 for information leading to her recovery or the arrest of anyone involved. The total reward for information is now more than $1 million. Someone out there knows something. A neighbor who saw a strange car. A coworker who heard something they brushed off. A relative of the person who did this, who noticed a behavioral change around the 1st of February. One tip, one phone call. That is all it takes. There is also the theory that keeps surfacing from former FBI officials. The idea that the suspect is not a stranger. That this person had some connection to Nancy's world. That they knew her routines. They knew her home. They knew when she would be alone. If that theory is correct, then the answers to this case have been hiding in plain sight this entire time. And the DNA from that hair, if it leads to a profile through genealogy, might confirm that suspicion. It might lead investigators back to someone in Nancy's orbit. What are the biggest unanswered questions right now? Why did it take 65 days for the hair sample to reach the FBI lab when the FBI asked for it from the very beginning? Who is the masked man on that doorbell camera footage? What do the 2 ransom notes that Savannah Guthrie believes are real actually say? Is there more surveillance footage that has not been released? Why has the sheriff been so reluctant to update the public? What does it mean that investigators believe they know the motive but have refused to say what it is? And where is Nancy Guthrie right now? I want you to sit with those questions, because they are not rhetorical. Every single one of them has an answer somewhere. And someone out there knows at least one of them. This is a case that has gripped the country not just because of who Savannah Guthrie is, but because of who Nancy Guthrie is. An 84-year-old woman. A mother. A grandmother. A churchgoer. A woman who spent a normal evening with her family and never woke up to see the sunrise. She deserves justice. She deserves answers. And her family deserves peace. 3 months in. No suspect. No arrest. But a hair in a lab at Quantico that could change everything. The science is moving. The FBI is working. And the person who walked up to Nancy Guthrie's front door in a ski mask and a holster and thought they had covered their tracks may be about to learn the hardest lesson of their life. You cannot hide from your own DNA. If you have any information about the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, please call the FBI tip line at 1-800-CALL-FBI. That is 1-800-225-5324. You can also contact the Pima County Sheriff's Department at 520-351-4900. The family's reward is still active. Over $1 million for information that helps bring Nancy home. Say her name, Nancy Guthrie. Say it out loud, because every time we say her name, we remind the world that she is still out there somewhere. And she still matters, and her story is not over. If this video gave you any new information or made you think about this case differently, please share it. Share it right now. Because the more eyes on this case, the better the chance that someone who knows something finally speaks up. Drop your thoughts and theories in the comments below. I read every single one of them. And if you are not subscribed yet, hit that button and turn on the bell. Because when this case breaks, and it will break, we will be right here covering every single detail. Stay with me. We are not done. Nancy Guthrie is not forgotten.